Aaron Glenn, Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, extended. Late news last night, breaking. I think there's a couple things to take away. I think one, in a roundabout way, and maybe a bit of a drawn-out way, you could look again to Sheila Ford-Hamp. The Detroit Lions finally have a sign of like life for the fan base within the franchise. Calvin Johnson, making things work again with Mike Disner. But nonetheless, she realized that and she invested into it. I think that's a plus sign for guys, maybe a defensive line coach looking for somewhere to hire into right now. Look at Detroit. Say, if I do a good job here, I'm then rewarded for it. Ben Johnson, paid and extended as well. He got a fat contract. We don't know what the numbers are, but he got it. I think that's one of my takeaways from it, the Aaron Glenn extension. What about you?
Yeah, it's a guy proving that they have faith in the guy. It's proving that they see what he was doing. Obviously, at the end of the year, we've talked multiple times about what that defense ranked at the end of the year, their DVOA, what they were doing with rushing the passer, not allowing completion percentage. The turnover rate was top 5 in the NFL. Their pressure on the quarterback was top 5 in the NFL at the end of the year. So, or the second half of the year, that stretch of games where they played great football. They saw what Aaron Glenn did with that young team. They saw what Aaron Glenn did with those young players, how he molded them, how they continued to get better week after week, and that is just a hats off kind of moment, a tip your cap kind of moment to a guy in Aaron Glenn who was not working with a great bag. We talked about it. I said it was like making a salad with spoiled vegetables. The guy was working with some non-premium talent and a bunch of young players that were unproven. And when the young players started getting more playing time, you saw them rapidly improving, rapidly growing, turning into difference makers. You look at Aiden Hudson, Malcolm Rodriguez, Kirby Joseph, James Houston, Josh Pascal, all these guys, and then the cast-offs. The cast-offs that other teams didn't want, like Alex Anzalone, like Isaiah Buggs, like John Kaminsky, guys that were brought in here. Aaron Glenn coached them up, and they turned into difference makers on that defense. So that is a tip of the cap of the organization to Aaron Glenn, showing that they have faith in him, showing that they believe in him going forward, and that when he starts to acquire more and more talent, the defense is only going to get better.
100%.
100%.
100%. I'm with you. You guys know I've been defending Glenn since day one, since week 2 or the Seattle game, whatever game it was. Everybody was ready to toss in the towel because context matters. And I saw my guy Zyko, one of my favorite Woodward Sports commenters in the Woodward Sports chat. Hope you guys hit the like button. But he said, what has AG done to deserve an extension? And then, again, you have to just take the step back and evaluate things with context. You can't just. That's why I hate the PFF arguments, when people try to, this was ranked this. Like, first and foremost, fuck advanced analytics. Secondly, context. Like, the beginning of the season, historically bad. Kirby Joseph, second year playing the safety position, starting in the NFL as a rookie, you're going to see some bad things. As a matter of fact, in his first start against the Seattle Seahawks, and the game that afterwards people wanted to fire AG, gave up 2 touchdowns directly caused by him. Rewatch the game, you guys will see it. It was so bad. It was so bad. Speaking of PFF.
How bad was it?
They didn't even have it as a coverage snap for him because he was so far off from the tight end. That's how bad it was.
How bad was it?
But he took that and he turned it around. I think you have to recognize that. The only 2 stars returning to that defense last year from the year previously, Ali McNeil, sophomore season, and Alex Anzalone, career backup.
Yes.
Those were the only 2 returning starters to that defense, which also changed the scheme. You have to, again, in context, the way that season switched around was because of defense. You go to every single Detroit Lions win, more than a Jared Goff performance, more than a Aiden Hutchinson performance. Well, actually, somewhat an Aiden Hutchinson performance. The most common thing when every single Detroit Lions win this year, what do you think of it? You already know. We've already had this discussion. Turnovers. Yeah. Every single Detroit Lions win, there was a turnover. Yeah. They went on that 8-game streak, the 8-2 streak. Mm-hmm. Turnovers, fumbles, interceptions.
That's how you win in the NFL, man.
That's how you win in the NFL. And like, you're going to give them some more pieces now? These guys get more involved with the NFL in itself. Like, their feet are in now. You heard Aiden talking last week, or maybe that was earlier this week. My man said Spinney can't keep his eye off the booty.
Sorry.
thirsty over there.
Nice booty, man.
Man, you just burnt the hole through her pants.
Yeah.
Jesus. Anyway. Lost my train of thought because I had to look too. I was like, is it looking like that over there? Like, what's going on?
Pretty good.
Very nice.
Very nice. How much? Very nice.
$5.
$5.
But no, Aiden Hutchinson last week or earlier this week was like, now that I got my feet wet, I know what I can do. That was just a sample size, little appetizer.
Yeah.
And I believe
like beef
him, man.
Wellington.
He was
Beef Wellington's good.
one of the things I spoke about with GQ like 2 weeks ago, and actually even before AG even hit the field as a defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, was like some of the guys who used to play, like former player coaches, the conversation we had. And he's like, you can't always like bank on that being a good thing because some guys are stuck in their ways, and their ways are from the 90s, and the game's just not played that way. AG is willing to change his ways. You saw it with the Aiden Hutchinson situation of this season anyway.
Yeah, you saw it throughout what's going on with the defense, him moving guys around. Obviously, they moved Will Harris from safety to corner. They're moving different guys in different places, moved Iffy from corner to safety, stood up Aiden halfway through the season. So, he's not just stubborn old man, something on my lawn, like old man yells at cloud.
Yeah.
Like, he is willing to adapt with the ever-changing game that is the NFL and what works with the young players that he has. First, he has to learn what works with them because they are brand new to this game. A lot of them were rookies going in, so you can't be like, oh, obviously this works. It worked in college, so it's going to work in the NFL. But when he realized something works, he stood Hutch up, and look at the success he had. He's dropping Hutch back in coverage, and he's getting interceptions.
Yeah.
This guy, Aaron Glenn, is getting the most out of these young players. We've talked about how many different players on that defense came out of nowhere. Like I said, not only the young guys, but the cast-offs is guys, like you said, Anzalone, career backup, comes in and has a fantastic season this year. Has one of the, by far the best year of his career. And it's impressive, not only with the schemes that he presents, and we saw flashes of it last year, like when they shut down Lamar Jackson, different things like that, holding teams to under 20 points, very good offenses, but you can only do so much with the tools you're given, and when you're not given a full assortment of tools, you got to mix and match, and he started mixing and matching. And when you put a guy like Isaiah Buggs, like how much of a difference did he make in our defense? And Isaiah Buggs is, I love him, but he's not a game wrecker. He's not this game-changing player. Excuse me. He's a solid, backup. He's a good depth piece, but he is not this guy that is defenses are rallying around, or you're building your defense off of Isaiah Buggs. But Aaron Glenn put him in there, knew what he did best, let him do it, and it made a difference. And the same with a guy like John Kaminsky. Yeah, a lot of teams wanted him, but he is not projected to be this all-pro guy. But you put him in there, you let him eat, you let him off the leash, and bam. How he utilized James Houston. Obviously, we talked about it when he got drafted. Like, this guy is going to be your pass rush specialist. Quote what I said. Go back and look at it, bitch. But it's James Houston. We knew what he was going to be. Aaron Glenn knew what he was and utilized him very well. So it's about the tools that you put together along with the scheme you have. And Aaron Glenn did a very good job of getting the most out of what he had last year, especially in that second half of the season. And
it took some time to develop, but there were pieces that should have took some time to develop. I mean, he's getting stuff out of, and don't get me wrong, like this happens across the league to good teams.
Yeah.
And an example of that I want to bring up is Jerry Jacobs, a guy who's emerged as a starter in this league as an undrafted free agent. I mean, did he have it all along? Sure, maybe, but in the combination of Brad Holmes finding him, and actually even more than Brad Holmes, let's not forget, we point blank saw this in Hard Knocks. AG's a part of helping make these roster moves too.
Yes.
This is a collective.
Aaron Glenn, he has the ear of Dan Campbell, obviously.
Yeah.
They're good friends. They worked together before. He trusts him a lot, and he's making good decisions.
So they found this Jerry Jacobs kid. He becomes an NFL caliber starter. I don't want to say they found the problem, because the problem was doing some damage down at Jackson State. His numbers were ridiculous, but they got the problem. A lot of people doubted it. Like you said, able to let him off the leash and eat. He turned to something. They somehow, yesterday actually, we went over Bobby Wagner's numbers, and I couldn't help but think Anzalone's were kind of close. Maybe during the break we'll pull it up in comparison. But I think last year Anzalone's numbers were pretty close to what Bobby Wagner did. But that's AG. You got to credit AG with some of this. And if there's a piece I don't want to credit, or I'm scared to credit, is Todd Walsh, and that's because he's gone now. He's with the Carolina Panthers. Him leaving. Does anybody have like a concern with like the culture and everything that you're told what the Detroit Lions are?
It's obviously going to hurt. He was a good assistant coach. He's a guy that went out there, and you can't not say that he helped these guys. Like, he obviously helped Aiden Hutchinson along. He obviously helped James Houston along, Lee McNeil, and different guys like that. But it's something that's going to happen. If you're a good team, you're going to lose your assistant coaches, flat out. That's what happens.
That's true. I was going to say, my only beef was like this one was like a lateral movement. And that's what made me question the culture until I thought back to the conversation we had, I don't know if it was yesterday or 2 days ago. We were kind of doing a whatever type of segment, and we looked up the richest NFL owners. And number 2 on that list, David Tavert.
Yeah.
And it could have just been a more money thing. Because I think they hired Jim Caldwell now too, Deuce Staley. Like, he's a guy, he's been very impatient with wanting to win. You saw fire Matt Rule. You've heard him speak to the public openly about it. Maybe they just gave him the bag. And I guess I just want to. I'm thinking that to put everybody, I guess, at ease who may be concerned with the Detroit Lions culture. Although I don't think that's anyone's concern, but in case it was,
I mean, Anzalone's stats aren't that close to.
You got him,
Bobby Wagner. Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
125 tackles. Bobby had 144.
Okay.
1.5 sacks. Bobby had 6. One interception. Bobby had 3.
Anzalone had 1 interception.
Yeah.
I feel like he had 2.
Wasn't it late in the season?
I'm looking at his stats
he had 1
right
against the Buffalo Bills. I know, but you did that to me before.
Pre-ProFootballReference.com.
Pre-poor, por favor.
Per ProFootballReference.com. Alex Anzalone, 1 interception.
He
had a good year. He didn't have an All-Pro second team caliber year.
Yes, he did. Take us to break.
No, he didn't.
What?
You think he had an All-Pro caliber year?
I 100% do. Just take us to break.